Welcome to Just a Beef podcast. I'm Molly.
I'm Derek.
And this is specifically the stories edition. So we're going to be sharing stories in a specific category. And this week's edition is injuries that specifically have caused us scars. So I'm going to start. I first wanted to start my story off by telling you a little bit about my dad. So my dad, Derek has seen this, does not like blood. He loves watching the videos that the owned videos and stuff where they are on skateboards and they're all skating down the railings, and then they fall off and their leg is coming out of their shin, their their bones coming out of the front of their leg and it's all popping out of the skin and stuff. And he loves watching those videos, but we'll just see him watching it and he'll just turn pale and slowly start to scoot down his seat and start to pass out. So he can't handle blood. So that would be a good amount of information for you to understand and appreciate these stories a bit more. So my first story is about how I got the scar on my lip. And so this scar, it's just kind of weird. If I smile, you can see a bunch of little lines on my right side of my lip, bottom lip, the fatty part of it. And there's just a bunch of little lines on it and a little V towards the bottom. And then I have a line in the center of my chin down below. And this was caused at my babysitter at the time's house, whose name was Candy. So she was watching us because my mom was in Washington visiting my uncle, and my dad had to work, and she lived close. And so I was at her house. She picked me up from the bus. I think I was in kindergarten, or first grade maybe, but I think it was kindergarten.
So 2 feet tall.
Shut the fuck up. Yes, small little Molly. I don't know, 2 feet tall might be a little tall for a kindergartner.
For a Molly-sized kindergartner, probably.
Tall for a kindergartner. How tall is a kindergartner?
You guys tell us, how tall is a kindergartner?
Anyways, so she picked us up from the bus, walked home with her and everything like that. She had 2 dogs. She had a little, I think it was a dachshund or something like that. And then she had something that I believe was a golden retriever or a lab, but he had to have been mixed with something else because, these labs and golden retrievers are known for being super nice to kids. But, so some, big dog that looked like a lab or golden retriever on the outside, but obviously must have been mixed. And so I, did the normal stuff. We got in, she gave me a little snack, and I was playing with a tea set and stuff, and then she's like, oh, well, we should take a nap. And I was like, oh, I guess. So she lays down. See, that's the thing. Candy wanted a nap. We didn't need to be taking a nap. Candy wanted to take a nap. So we sit down, and she just passes out. She's out. So I'm just sitting there as a little kindergartner, bored, and I didn't have a phone or anything a lot of kindergartners might have nowadays. And so I'm just bored, sitting around, and the dog had laid, so she had 2 couches that were one, that made an L, I guess, in her living room, basically. And so she was on one, I was on the other. The dog chose to lay down in front of the couch I was on. So I'm bored, and I lean over the couch, and I just look at the dog, and I don't get up in its face or anything, I'm a whole couch cushion plus couch, whatever, away from the dog. So I wasn't in the dog's face at all. And just lean over and say, hi, puppy! And the dog just bit me. Just right away just bit me and got, obviously, by the scarring, got, the majority of my, lip and chin area and stuff. And I remember running into the kitchen and just crying, and I didn't think to, wake Candy up. So I'm just, crying and trying to find something to do. So she hears me, crying and panicking, so she finally wakes up, and she runs over, and she starts freaking out. And I remember I was wearing this shirt that I really liked that had, these tiny blue flowers all over it. And I had another one, exact same shirt, that had pink flowers all over it. So I was really pissed that my blue flower shirt got blood all over it, because I liked that one more than the red flower shirt, or the pink flower shirt. So I was, pissed. And I remember just, looking at it and being upset, and there's blood all down the front of my shirt. And she's trying to hand me, these dirty-ass, kitchen towels to put on my, fresh cut. And I didn't know at the time, but, my dad was pretty pissed about that. So she's doing that. She calls my dad. My dad rushes from work. I don't think he worked too far away, so it wasn't too long. And the whole time, she's just kind of freaking out. And she's doing that thing where, she knows that she did something wrong. So she's, trying to tell the kid, me, the kid, what to say and what to do to kind of, cover up what was going on. So she kind of starts prepping me, like, what I should say to my dad. Well, just say that, that you were playing with the dog a little rough. And I was like, but I wasn't doing that. And so she was kind of trying to prep me to say the right thing. As you'll see, Candy wasn't the best babysitter I could have had. But, so, and I don't know, honestly, if that was her real name or not. But, I mean, I don't know who would willingly go by Candy.
It was her stripper name.
It was her stripper name. But,
she didn't want to go through the effort of coming up with another one for babysitting.
She had this duo name. Anyways, so she had called my dad. He gets there, and I remember him just freaking out. Again, this man does not like blood, and my entire shirt at this point is just red down the front. Like, it's gone. And, like, it's starting to seep into, like, the shorts below him. Like, because she wasn't doing the best job, and she wasn't telling me, like, oh, you should keep pressure on it, because I don't think Candy knew that you should keep pressure on it. So I'm just bleeding. My dad finally comes and picks me up, and I can just see that, like, he doesn't really want to be around me, and he's, like, getting kind of paled and grossed out. So he immediately pops me into the car, and we start heading to the emergency room, which, again, we lived in the middle of Phoenix at this point, so, like, an emergency room was pretty close. We lived in a big city, that's why work was close, and that's why the emergency room was close. So he pops me into the car, we head straight to the emergency room, and my dad tells Candy, let Leslie know, which is my mom, let Leslie know what's going on, so that, because I told her that something happened, and, like, the thing is, when Candy called my dad, she, like, didn't give him all the information what was going on, she was just like, oh, Molly's she's really hurt, I think you need to get here. So my dad kind of was freaking out, like, just really hurt, how hurt is that? So he starts to head down, and comes and gets me, and then sees, how hurt I am, but then doesn't relay any new information to my mom, because he obviously called my mom on his way over, letting her know, I don't know, Candy just said she was really hurt. So my dad lets Candy know, like, hey, you need to tell Leslie what's going on. So we head to the emergency room, and Candy's responsible for letting my mom know what's going on. We get to the emergency room, and my dad just picks me up, like, he just carries me to the emergency room and just sets me on the counter. Like, he doesn't wait in a line, there's, like, a line of people waiting at the front desk, and he just sets me on the counter. And I remember the front lady, I don't know if she was, like, a nurse or who she was, or just a receptionist, I don't know. But I remember her looking shocked and just being like, oh my gosh. And then, so she immediately goes and grabs a doctor. The doctor comes out for a second, looks me over, and then they get me into a room right away. And so, when we're sitting in the room, I remember, or it might have been the receptionist that said this, or it might have been the doctor, I'm not 100% sure. This is obviously some of this information is coming from my parents and stuff that have retold the story, as I was a kindergartner and did not have that much, memory capability. But I remember the doctor or somebody saying, oh, well, she's just so pretty, so we're calling a plastic surgeon. And my mom hated this fact. Like, oh, so if she was ugly, you would just let any person just stitch her up, and, like, she'd walk out with half her lip, like, taped to her eye, like, or stitched to her eyeball, like, oh, but she's so pretty. So they get a plastic surgeon to come in. It takes a little bit. And so while the plastic surgeon's coming in, I remember they were giving me, like, tapioca pudding and stuff like that had, like, numb stuff in it. Or I think it was tapioca pudding, it might have been, like, rice pudding or just, like, vanilla pudding, but they gave me pudding that had drugs in it to help numb my mouth area, and I think also other areas, so that they could stitch me up. And they didn't put me under or anything like that, I think because my mom has had previous issues with anesthesia, so they didn't really want to chance it. So they feed me all this tapioca pudding, and I really liked it, so I was like, can I have some more? So I ended up eating, like, 2 or 3 of these things full of tapioca pudding. Now, I don't know if that's the regular amount, or if all of it was drugged or not, but I remember I had a lot of tapioca pudding. And so they get me all drugged up. I don't really remember a lot. I remember, like, washing off the front of me, like, getting all the blood off. They cleaned me up. Getting, like, my dad, I don't know if he left, or if we picked him up on the way back or not, but I remember got new PJs on me and stuff like that. The surgery happened. Don't really remember a ton. Remember getting back up, seeing that the stitches looked all good, and I had quite a few of them. I don't remember the amount. And everything was good. So I changed into my PJs, which are these, like, silk PJs that have frogs on them with, like, lily pads and stuff like that. And I loved them. They were, like, purple and obviously green for the frogs. And we start to head home. And then we find out, because my dad finally can call my mom, and we find out that Candy told my mom over and over again, oh, well, it's just a small little thing. Oh, you'll have to ask Dustin. Oh, I'm not sure what's going on. Oh, I don't know what happened. And, like, she knows what happened. Like, she knew what happened and first saw the incident and everything like that, and was just super vague with my mom. So my mom's super frantic at this point. My dad lets my mom know, like, no, it's okay. We got it all handled. Her dog bit her in the face. And that's what happened. And so then at this point, Candy realizes that everybody knows now that the dog bit me in the face. Like, that all I said was, hi, puppy, didn't do anything, and the dog bit me in the face. So she starts to kind of go on, like, I don't know what the word is for it, but she's trying to, kind of starts to try to, like, cover her ass. And so she starts
defensive.
Yeah, she starts to get all defensive and, like, try to, like, mend things. And so we finally get back to her house, and she starts, as soon as we get there, oh, I don't know what's going on, like, she's never done that before, and, like, I just don't know what's going on, and obviously since we went to the hospital, like, it's already been reported that I was bitten by a dog. Like, that's already been reported, and, like, why would we cover that up? That's what happened. And so she's freaking out that we said anything at the hospital, like, but, like, they have to know that it was a dog, they have to treat it appropriately, you know, put certain things on it to make sure it doesn't get an infection, and all that stuff. So she's just utterly pissed. While we were gone, my sister and her daughter, which I don't remember her daughter's name, got home from school, and I think they were in the same grade at this time. So they got home from school.
Candy's daughter?
Candy's daughter.
Okay.
Yeah, so since I was in kindergarten, I got out at, like, noon or something, because kindergarten is only half days, or at least where I was from, it was only half days. So they had come home from their full day of school. My sister and Candy's daughter. So while we were gone at the hospital, Candy's family has been redoing their bathroom, and I guess they didn't really pick up stuff really great, because Megan stepped on a nail while we were gone. So just, like, this house is just a disaster. So Megan steps on a nail, my dad gets home, and immediately goes to the kitchen to take care of Megan, because she just stepped on a nail, and is trying to check it out, decide if, like, does she have tetanus shots recently, like, do we need to go to the hospital? We find out that it was a very, very tiny nail, and that it wasn't too big of a deal, and stuff, so they cleaned it out, and got a Band-Aid on it, and she ended up being fine. Obviously, she's still here today. And so, as they're doing all that, I'm just sitting on the couch, you know, all still drugged up and stuff, and, you know, I had 3 things of tapioca pudding, and before I left, they gave me a popsicle. So I'm just filled with sugar at this point, and numbing drugs, and nothing's on my stomach, because all we had was a light snack after I got home around, like, noon, and at this point, it's, like, 3 or 4, because obviously the kids are home from school, or, like, my sister and Candy's daughter are home from school. So I'm getting a little nauseous, and I remember just sitting on the couch, and just, you know, I think I was, like, sitting crisscross, or, like, something like that. Yeah, I think I was sitting crisscross. And I remember just throwing up in my lap, and it creating, like, a pool of throw up in my Froggy PJs. And everybody thought I threw up blood. And so they were freaking out. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, she's gonna die. And I start, like, freaking out, because I'm like, wait, what? That's blood? And, like, of course it took everybody a bit, or it took my dad a bit, to be like, oh wait, she had a red popsicle. Maybe it's that. So I wasn't throwing up blood, it was just red popsicle, but it was just one of those days. It was just one thing after another. But yeah, ended up being fine. I still have the scar today. But the plastic surgeon did a good job, so, you know, that's all good. And yeah, and then, yeah, we didn't see Candy too much after that. We did find out, though, that it was not the first time her dog had bitten somebody, and that it was actually the 3rd time. And so her dog got put down after that, and she was pissed. So that's kind of why we didn't see her again, because she didn't want to see us, because we killed her dog. Even though, you know, this is the 3rd time that it had bitten somebody. And we found out that the first time was reported because it just, like, ran up to somebody in the neighborhood and bit their arm. And then the second time they bit another kid, but it didn't get reported because it was somebody in, like, Candy's family. And then the 3rd time, obviously, was me, and it got reported. Because I think dogs usually have 2 chances to get reported and they get put down. But, yeah, so, I mean, I kind of feel bad, but she also did not take care of that dog very well, and knew that, like, the dog liked to attack children, and, like, chose to babysit for people. So, yeah, so after that, we didn't see Candy very much. So, what's your story?
Yeah, well, my stories aren't that long.
I told you, I was like, well, I'll only do 2, and you can do more, because I have long stories.
Expect the detail from Molly, I guess, because, you know, yes, mine aren't quite that good. So, I had one kind of probably similar to, probably a little bit older, probably 1st or 2nd grade is what I would guess. And you can't really tell now because I have a beard, but I have this little scar on my chin. It's like the shape of, like, I don't know, like a crescent moon, kind of. It's like a little round thing.
Half circle?
Half circle. Well, it's not quite a half circle.
It's a crescent shape.
Yeah, it's a crescent shape. Yeah.
It's like a croissant, a fresh baked croissant.
Yeah, sure. I have a croissant on my chin. That's what we're getting down to here. So I don't know if you guys remember what those old like Razor scooters used to look like when they first came out. I mean, I'm sure everybody's seen them, like, little handles that come up from the top. I don't think they do it anymore, but they used to put this little hook on them. Which sounds stupid. It's this little plastic hook to hang your helmet on. But I don't know what you're supposed to lean your scooter up against or how you're supposed to make your scooter stand up to hang your helmet on it. But regardless, they had a little hook on it and you're supposed to put your helmet on.
So this was a T shape, meaning that the top of the T was the handlebars, and then it went down into like the wheels of the scooter, and on that like long pole part was a plastic hook.
Yeah, like right below like the handle,
handlebars,
like 1 or 2 inches probably below like where the handles are. And so I'm, got my Razor scooter and I'm over in the neighbor's driveway because they had a flat driveway instead of an angled driveway, and I was just doing circles in it on my little scooter. Yeah. It's way easier to try and do circles on an angled driveway. You get going faster on one side. It's just, flat driveway is better. So I'm sitting there and I'm going in circles on my little Razor scooter, and not the neighbor's driveway is flat, but it's also covered in pebbles because they had, rocks all the way up the side of their driveway. And I must have hit one of those. And next thing I know, I'm just kind of like, laying on the driveway with the scooter underneath me and notice that I'm bleeding everywhere. So I'm sure you put together, because, why else would I tell you about the helmet hook, that the helmet hook caused the cut in my chin. So you guys are going to figure out from my other story, too, that my grandma seemed to be there for all of my, I guess, most traumatic injuries as a child.
Yeah, that was like my dad. My dad was there for all of them. He hates blood and had to witness everything.
Because it was one of those, my grandma was my babysitter, so she'd come over all the time and she'd watch me and my sister. So, I mean, it makes sense, especially throughout the summer when kids are outside hurting themselves and, riding Razor scooters and stuff, that, my grandma would have been there. So she comes out, sees that I'm bleeding everywhere, starts freaking out, calls my mom. You'll also figure out that my grandma always has the best intentions in these situations, but she does sometimes get a little what's the word? Worked up.
I was like, do we got another candy?
No, not quite another candy. She didn't tell me about any stripping days, but I also don't want to know if there were any. So.
Ew. Get on with the story.
So I just remember sitting there holding my chin, bleeding through rags or paper towels or whatever they gave me. Honestly, I was too young to remember what they had me holding there with. And she called my mom. We were just waiting for my mom to come back from work and took me to the urgent care. And I remember it was not a plop me down on the counter and let's get him to the back. It was like, oh, some other kid cut his chin open. Okay, go sit over there. And I don't know, my little kid mind, I felt like we were sitting in that waiting room for like an hour and a half, like a really, really long time. Just, okay.
I had big blue eyes, and the nurse is like, we have to get her to the back, stat.
Yeah, he's an ugly little kid, whatever.
Yeah, you were the ugly kid. They're like, oh, he can wait. He doesn't need a plastic surgeon.
Plastic surgeon, whatever. We'll stitch it up, and we don't even care if it heals straight, whatever. If it grows back together, we'll be fine. So we finally get me to the back, and I feel like once we're in the back, it's like a 10-minute process. The guy looks, oh, yeah, your chin's cut. Like, thanks. And I remember that, he gave the option of, oh, we can do stitches or we can glue it. And, I'm sitting there as a kid, like, thinking of, like, Elmer's glue, and he's just going to pull out a bottle of Elmer's glue, hold my chin closed, and, coat it in it, wait for it to dry. Like, 1st or 2nd grade.
Oh, okay.
So it makes sense that, Elmer's glue would be the thing that came to mind.
You're like middle school.
Yeah. About to graduate high school. I'd go with Gorilla Glue, but yeah, sure.
Ooh. You gotta let it cure.
Actually, the fun thing, it'll burn while it goes in there, but you can use Gorilla Glue or Super Glue in an emergency instead of liquid Band-Aid. It does about the same thing.
It's not Gorilla Glue.
So I remember finally get back there, and like he literally just glues my chin back together, just with some medical.
Oh, you picked glue?
Something. Yeah, no,
I
just glued
picked
my chin back together.
I'd have been like, I don't want that near me.
That could be why I have such a wide scar, because I knew other people that did similar things throughout school, and they had stitches for a couple weeks, and then they were sealed, and you couldn't tell quite as much. So that might be why my scar is so much more like noticeable.
Probably.
But yeah, so people always ask all the time, I have a little bald spot. If I pull the hair up on my beard, you can still see it there. And, if it's short enough, obviously it doesn't cover it up and it looks like a weird little bald spot. So,
yeah.
Yeah, say my story, not as much detail. No candy.
Mine's interesting. It's just a lot was happening. There was a lot of players. You only had, a couple people, characters in yours.
Story development. Got it.
All right, so my next one is the back of my knee. It's my left knee, and the back part that, like, I don't know, bends. Like, it bends.
Like, not the side with the kneecap, but the other side.
Yeah.
The armpit of the knee.
That scar looks kind of like an eye. It's really puffy for all of my scars, and it's, like, really puffy and has a bunch of, like lines going through it, and I think it's because it does bend, that it, like, when it stretches all the way out, the lines go away. When it's kind of, like, bent a little bit, the lines come back and stuff. Like, loose skin, kind of. And it's really puffy, and it's kind of in the shape of an eye. Like a nice slit that gets thin at the ends and then fat in the middle. It's like a shape of an eye.
Like, eye on your face, not like the letter I.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, we had some neighbors that my parents were kind of friends with. We found out later that they pretty much just used us for everything. Like, they wouldn't talk to us at all, except for like, oh, hi! Yeah, can I have, like, 3 cups of sour cream? Go to the store! You need 3 cups of sour cream?
It's a lot of French.
You gotta go to the store, like, you ask a neighbor if they have, like, ooh, I'm just, like, just shy of half a cup of sugar. Do you think you could, like, top me off? Like, you don't ask a neighbor, like, yeah, I need, like, 6 pounds of sugar. Any of y'all got that on you? Like, no.
You have a log of butter? What are you making?
But they just, like... they'd, like, ask to borrow our vacuum, and, like, and we didn't see that again for a while. It was, like, because we knew how they were, so we, like, I just gave them one of our old ones, and then they, like, just never brought it back. Like, they were just bad people, and they just used us, and they weren't very good neighbors, and, like, I remember one time, like, we asked them if we could borrow just, like, a little bit of sugar or something, and she was like, you guys should go to the store for that. You just asked us for, like, 7 cups of cranberries last week. Like, we're gonna have that in our house.
They write math problems about you. Do you guys have, like, 64 watermelons?
Right? It's just like, and you're complaining that we need a couple tablespoons of sugar? And anyways, so they just, like, weren't very nice. But anyways, before we really found all this, and my parents were those type of parents that, like, our kids like each other, like, our kids are friends, so we should be friends. Even though they hated, like, half of the parents that were the parents of the kids that we were friends with. But they tried, because they didn't want to, like, cause a riff or anything like that, and they wanted us to still be friends. But we later found out that, like, even our friends kind of sucked. So, anyways, they just listened to this, and they're like, well, thanks. So my parents were helping them redo their floors, basically take out the carpet and make them hardwood floors. So they were over there, and they were there for a long time. Like, it was a couple hours, if not, like, 6 or 7 hours. And I think at this point, I was in, like, 4th or 5th grade, maybe 6th, but, like, 4th or 5th grade. And when you remove carpet, if anybody has done it or regularly does it or installs them or whatever, you'll know that when you take out carpet, there's, like, the carpet, there's the foam, and then there's, like, I forget what it's called, and maybe you'll know the name. It's, like, the wood, and they have a bunch of nails in it. And I don't know exactly what it's for, if it's, like, to keep the foam pinned down or what, because obviously it's not to keep the carpet pinned down. But I'm not sure, but there's basically, like, carpet, foam, and then wood that has a bunch of nails in it. That's all I know. And I don't know if it was, like, the stuff that's, like, right before the doorways and stuff. What's that called? Tack strip? I don't know if it was, like, the tack strip is what I'm remembering. I don't know. I wasn't involved in the project.
Anyway,
I just
nails and wood.
I
nails
was
and wood.
a victim of the project. So, basically, me and one of their kids that I was friends with, we were running around playing, and they are, just finished getting the carpet out, and they're already, like, into getting wood pieces down. So they had just kind of tossed all the carpet pieces into some dumpsters in the front of their house, and things are just kind of everywhere, and they're kind of being messy and stuff. So we're running around. I'm, in a t-shirt and shorts, and I have these really, really thick, like, wedge or, like, platform flip-flops. Like, I was stylish. And as you can tell, I had some issues with height. So I wanted to be taller than I actually was. So I loved, like, they were, like, 2, maybe 3 inches tall. Like, I loved them. And they were these flip-flops.
We all remember the early 2000s.
I was like, they were super, like, lame. But anyways, so loved those. And I was wearing those. And thank God I was wearing those for this incident. Well, yeah, I think it would have been better the way it happened. So I was wearing those, and I had stepped, running around, we were playing, and I ran into one of the boards. So one of the nails goes through the flip-flop, but since it's 3 inches long, it didn't get to my foot, so thank God. for that. But since I was running and didn't realize I had stepped on them, I flicked the board up and it tore down the back of my leg. So I was stepping, and when I went on the up part, since it was a flip-flop, it snapped to meet my heel and brought the board up, and the board ran across the back of my leg. So I had a bunch of little tiny scratches, and I could see some blood. So since I was littler, I didn't really know how to maneuver my body to see behind me, and I didn't really care because it didn't hurt. So I was just like, oh, well, I can see some scratches near my ankle and up my calf. Okay, I need Band-Aids or something. But I'm allergic to Band-Aids, so I know that sometimes I can wear them, sometimes I can't. I just get kind of some rash, a little bit of rash and hives and stuff. And just not the greatest, but generally if it's only for a little bit, it'll be fine. But need some medical attention from my parents. So I go in and I tell my mom, hey, I cut my leg, can you check it? I think I need some, I don't know what I said, obviously I was a little kid. Basically I was trying to hint that she needed to clean it out and get me cleaned up. Fix my shit. So she's like, yeah, no worries, let me finish this one little piece and then I'll be over there. So I'm sitting on one of their dining room chairs, and it's one of the regular wood ones that everybody had, the light wood ones that everybody seemed to have. And I'm just sitting there waiting, and, this place is mostly empty because they're taking all the flooring up and stuff like that. And I'm just waiting, and then I see my mom get up, and she starts walking over to me, and I just see her face change all of a sudden. She's just mortified. And she's like, Molly, why didn't you tell me you were bleeding? And I'm like, what? And I look down, and there's just a puddle of blood around my foot. Which, it would make sense that I would feel it, but it makes sense I wouldn't feel it because it was my body temperature. Why would I feel blood that's my body temperature?
Running down your legs and stuff?
I was such an oblivious
kid. You had to get to the floor somehow.
I was in my own little world until I was 18. I literally even when I took my driving test, I just mean I was just not that I was selfish or anything like that, I just ran in my own little mind. When I took my driving test, he even was told my mom, he was yeah, she just is kind of in her own little world while she drives, which isn't good. So maybe you should teach her. So I don't know, there was something about me, if you saw it, you just saw that I didn't really, I wasn't, I feel as you get older, you're way more aware as an adult, what people are doing, what their intentions are, what's going on around you. You can kind of keep track of several people in a room. That wasn't me at the time. I just was in my own little Molly world.
I would argue that you're still kind of in your own little
You're
Molly
an
world.
asshole! What are you talking about? Okay, we'll talk about this later. Anyways.
I'm in trouble.
No, you're not. Shut up. I just want to know what the you mean. Anyways, so so I was kind of in my own little Molly world, so it makes sense that I didn't really notice because I just didn't care. Even though it was my body part, it had to be up by my face, or it didn't matter. It wasn't involved in my world. So she comes over and realizes that I'm bleeding, and I look down, there's a ton of, it's a lot of blood that's just surrounding my foot now.
Good thing they're replacing the floor.
Right? No, it was actually the, kitchen that wasn't getting replaced at all.
Oh.
So, anyways, so my mom quickly gets my dad over. We get the blood, and obviously my dad's getting a little, pale and faint. And we get all the blood cleaned up, and they have me laying down on, a pillow. And I remember this. I was eating popcorn, and, Megan was feeding me, my sister was, feeding me bits of popcorn, and I was drinking Capri Sun.
Most of it was you in, your last meals, it seems like.
Right. I just
I'm about to die of infection. My last meal is going to be popcorn and Capri Sun.
So, I'm, laying, with my stomach on the floor, arms and head on a pillow, and Megan's feeding me popcorn and a Capri Sun. And my family and, the whole family's house we were at are all, gathered around my knee, a baby's gonna pop out of it. They're all, just waiting, looking at it. And I remember my dad, for whatever reason, wasn't getting quite as faint this time around. So he decides that he's gonna play with my eye-like incision and make it blink. So he's just sitting there going, blink, 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 blink. As I'm sitting there eating, popcorn and drinking Capri Sun. So clearly this wasn't, a cause for concern in my family. So my parents do the normal talk that, you do with kids. Is it worth getting stitches? So it was really late at night, so we couldn't have just gone to, a regular doctor or anything. And, I was getting tired, and I was kind of I don't want to go. And it doesn't even hurt. But you shouldn't listen to a kid. And, they were talking, we could probably just butterfly it, wrap it, and it'll probably be good. And we can always go to the doctor in the morning. And at the time, my parents didn't know that, you have to get stitches within a couple hours of when something happens. So I went to bed, she called in the morning, got an appointment, and we went to go see my doctor. And we found out that it was too late for stitches, and that I probably he was kind of on the fence about whether he would have stitched it in the first place or not, since it was on the back of my knee, and that's a place that obviously bends and then stretches all the time, so it might not have been the best for stitches.
That'd have been hard to,
You want to hear about the healing
sit around
process?
for a
I'll
couple
tell you
weeks?
what happened. My right leg was very strong at the end. So basically, he's like, "Well, we can't stitch it now. It's too old, and I don't know all the reasons why, but you can't stitch something after it's been quite a few hours after the incident, because I think it's already starting to heal, so it won't
Not a
quite
doctor.
match up, right?
Not a doctor.
Not a doctor. So he was like, "Oh, I have this genius idea. We're gonna take adhesive, slather it on the back of your leg, slap a Band-Aid on it, and it'll heal in a couple weeks." And the adhesive was so that I could go take showers freely, and that it shouldn't come off because it's like industrial strength adhesive.
And now we're thinking
As
back
I mentioned,
to the Band-Aids.
I'm allergic to Band-Aids for the adhesive specifically, not because they're latex, for the adhesive. And I remember, I think I was in the room alone because my mom was talking to like a nurse about something to like get blood work about tetanus, or she was trying to get some records to see when I got my tetanus shot last, since it was like nails and stuff. And I think I had to end up getting a shot that day anyways because they were unsure. So my mom was off doing that, so she didn't see the whole adhesive thing go down. And I, obviously, being in 4th or 5th grade, wasn't quite like sure what the sticky stuff he was putting on me was, so I didn't like think to speak up. So anyways, my mom gets back, sees what happened, or didn't really understand, saw that he had a Band-Aid on, and she's like, "Oh, when we get home, we'll just rip off the Band-Aid and we'll put some gauze on it. I'm not gonna like make him get it out now and then get charged like $60 for gauze," when he said that he could just slap a Band-Aid on it for free. So he told my mom, "Oh, I'll just put some stuff on it, it'll be free, don't worry, just you have to pay for like the appointment charge." So that's what she was thinking happened, not realizing that I'm now getting like seared to the Band-Aid with this industrial strength like adhesive, and that my skin's on fire. So I get a tetanus shot, we head home, and I tell her like, "Yeah, no, he put a bunch of like sticky stuff all over it." And she was like immediately worried. She's like, "Oh my god, he put adhesive all over it." So I start to break out in hives. I go and take a bath, which probably isn't the best thing to do with an open cut, but we like couldn't get the adhesive off. So I sit in a warm bath for a while. Eventually the adhesive works off after a couple days. Like, it would not come off. So after a couple days it gets off,
it
we
wasn't supposed
start...
to come off.
Yeah, it wasn't supposed to come off this soon.
You're supposed to be able to shower and stuff with it,
Right?
so...
Yeah, so I was like trying to like soap it up and like work my little hands down there and like massage it off. So we, a couple days later we get it off, we butterfly it, gauze it. And I remember that basically what the doctor told me was just try not to stretch your leg out. Like, try not to, either you cannot bend it or you cannot stretch it, but you need to pick one. So I was like, I think it'd be way easier not to stretch it out, meaning that my leg would be at a full, like, 180 degrees versus leaving it bent at 90 degrees, right? Or, like, bent. I don't
think
know.
the other way around, but to stretch it would be straight, right?
Yeah, stretching it straight or bending it, you'll see why it's at 90 degrees. So basically what ended up happening is I had to jump around everywhere on my right leg with my left leg bent behind me at a 90-degree angle. And I did that for 3 months because it took forever to heal. Because I also, at the time when I was a little kid, had restless leg syndrome, which is where you basically kick your legs and stuff while you sleep, but like so violently that you can... Right? No, yeah. So like I would so violently, like... But the problem was that I couldn't sit down in classes, right? If I left it straight, like it would have been really hard to sit down and like do stuff. So like in my mind I thought bending it would be easier, and it would have been really hard to walk around with a straight leg versus like bent and hopping around.
Walking like a pirate.
Yeah. So I got in a gym for like such a long time. I remember that. I was so excited. I was like, "Oh, my leg's not healed yet." And he was like, "Oh, okay."
Let's face it, gym and
Right.
ever was always pointless. So.
4th grade, like it wasn't doing too much for me.
You need to exercise. You
My
still
right
have
leg-
3 recesses every day. What do you mean you need to exercise
3?
us? 2 or 3, yeah,
I had
probably.
1.
I'm thinking like 1 in the morning, 1 at lunch, and then 1 in the afternoon.
No, we just had 1 at lunch. Were you in like the daycare systems?
No,
I don't know, kiddo. You're just a lucky ass bastard.
recess.
Anyways, so we had, so I jumped around on it all the time, and it, like, couldn't heal because it had restless leg syndrome at night, which means where you, like, kick your legs around so violently that, like, they can cramp up, and usually it's because you're stressed out and stuff, and so, like, they'll cramp up and, like, stuff like that. Obviously, my situation was I'd kick my leg out and then rip any healing that had ever happened. So I remember this thing, like, got pussy, and it got like would get scabbed, but then the scabs like would be pointless because they weren't attached anymore because they get ripped apart. So we had to clean the scabs off, and it took forever to heal. And I remember like the running joke was like I'd be hopping along like trying to get to the cafeteria, and a bunch of guys would like start hopping along with me to all make fun of me. And they'd be like, all jumping along. I was like, fucking hate you people. But so anyways, I happened to make it through, and it's all healed now. But that's why it's like such a big nasty scar. And but yeah, that's probably the worst injury I've ever gotten, just because it took so long to heal.
It's in such a bad spot, too.
Yeah, I am aware it is a
I mean, you
bad
don't
spot.
really see it now, but like for healing and everything, it was a bad spot. Let's see. My next one. So I'm sure you guessed my grandma was there again.
Oh, really quick. This podcast is sponsored by Just a Peek blog. If you couldn't guess, that's the blog I run. So if you guys are interested in more stories like this or recipes, I have a blog that is at www.justapeek, JUSTAPEEK blog, blog.com. So justapeekblog.com, where you can read about more funny stories and recipes, and the recipes, like all blog posts come with like funny stories and stuff because I think that's what makes it fun. And you can get recipes for like tikka masala, coffee recipes, DIYs, and all that stuff. So if you're interested in anything like that, adult beverages, if you're interested in anything like that, go check it out. I'd appreciate it. And yeah, just more ways to get involved with us. And yeah, okay, on to your story.
Oh, thanks for that word from our sponsor.
Getting so much money. I feel like I'm getting a penny in the future.
It's like moving money from your savings account to your checking account. Like, so like I said, I'm sure you guessed my grandma was there again. So I used to be really into riding my bike when I was a kid. I would that's just what I used to do. I'd get up and I'd go ride my bike a bunch every day. And it's just weird because I was never really in shape. Like, there's never been like one point in my life that I was like, oh wow, I'm really in shape, and I'd like ride my bike all day. Anyway, not the point.
You're making yourself sound like you're just a fat ass. You're in pretty good shape. Like, you're not just like obese.
Yeah, like what, 15-ish pounds?
What I think you
what I
mean
would
is
call
that
overweight.
I think what you mean is that you've just never been like one of those super lean like bodybuilders.
Look at my
And you've
six
never-
pack.
Yeah, like, you've never had muscles. But I say, like, when people look at you, you're just, like, a big, like, you have wide shoulders, and then your body fills that out. Like, you're not fat, you don't look big. I don't want people to get the wrong idea of you, but yeah.
Yeah, because I guess we're not doing a video with this, so you
Yeah.
don't actually really know. Yawns are contagious, you're welcome. So I started off on a mountain bike, but then I got a BMX bike, and of course you get a BMX bike, and what do you want to do with it? You want to, take it off from some sick jumps and stuff, right?
You went to, like, a different place. Like, I don't know who that was. You take it off for some sick jumps. Like, who
Trying
was
to
that?
channel my inner Tony Hawk, I don't know.
That was a disgrace to Tony Hawk.
Okay, yeah, probably. Especially once you hear the story, yeah. So, of course I wanted to jump it. And, my dad always had extra wood lying around. So he made me this little ramp. It was, probably, I don't know, 1.5 feet or so tall on, like, the end that you would come off from. So, like, bigger than, like, your little wimpy ones that you, like, would get at the store and stuff. So we got it all made up, and, I was, taking my bike off from it and just kind of, riding over it and jumping off the other side. So my grandma was over and I pretty much decided I just kept getting a little bit more, confident with it, I guess, because I'd been doing it a lot. So I kept trying to like jump off from it a lot more, like right at the end, trying to jump and, pull my bike a little further. So one time I didn't do it quite right and pretty much pulled myself up into a wheelie right before I went off from the end of the ramp and, pretty much hit the ground and just went straight to the ground. So I scraped up my knees pretty good. And then I really scraped up my wrist, and you can still see it if you get it in the right light. But it's like, probably about the size of like a nickel or so, and it's on my wrist, and it's like this weird discolored skin. So I scraped that pretty good. And I wasn't honestly, like, it didn't hurt too bad. I wasn't like bleeding too bad. It wasn't anything
making a pile of blood or anything like that, like, someone else's stories.
So I just got up off from the street. It was just right in front of our house and went and laid up in the front yard. And, of course, here comes my grandma freaking out that I just, fell off from this ramp. And so I'm sitting there bleeding everywhere. And overall, okay. And she is just like freaking out. So I'm sitting there. I'm the one who's hurt. And I have to calm her down and tell her, no, I'm fine. And she's like, oh, that damn ramp. I'm going to burn that damn ramp. And
What the fuck?
guess she didn't like the whole
What if a
idea
kid
of the
hurt
ramp.
you? Like, what if a kid, like, tripped you? Oh, we better burn that kid. Like, Salem witch trials up in
We're
here.
gonna burn his shoes.
Yeah, like, what?
So, I go upstairs, get all cleaned out, and, she's angry. My mom shows back up from work, pretty short after this. And I just remember for, like, the next month that my grandma was just like, I'm going to find that ramp and I'm going to burn that damn ramp.
Did you hide it?
We put it back in the shop, and I don't know how she never found it, because it was, like, not really hidden. I think it was just, because it's basically a board with a bunch of little, like, 2x4s kind of put together to make the part that you, like, to give it the height. So the way it was turned, it just kind of looked like a piece of plywood or something sitting there. So I don't think she ever, like, put together that it was the ramp. Because it was sitting in plain sight. It was, like, not, like, very well hidden. Yeah. So, yeah, no, that's, again, my story. Maybe I'm just not as good at telling my stories. I don't know.
All right, so on to me. My last... Or do you have another one after this?
My last one's a little... it's not that long.
Okay. Because they've been so long.
Yeah, because they've all been, like almost 3 minutes each so far.
All right, so my last one, again, in kindergarten. I remember, like, every other week I showed up with, like, a different brace or, like, stitches in kindergarten. Like, I felt like half that, like, year I just wasn't involved. I was just, like, always hurting and always like, oh, Molly can't participate in this activity this year.
Can't color today.
Our kindergarten was cool. We had, like, different, like, it was, like, red, yellow, and blue tasks, and then, like, you got your clothespin put on one for the start of the day, and that was, like, your little group that you were with, and then, like, the blue table got to do, like, you had to make a Play-Doh sculpture, and then, like, the red table, you had to read this book, and then, like, the yellow table got to do something else, and, like, I thought she did a really good job, the teacher, like, how she arranged it.
We did stuff kind of like that, where you had, like, little different stations and stuff.
Yeah, so there were, like, stations that I didn't end up getting to go to because of certain things, like, oh, it might get in one of my stitches, or, like, because if we're using our hands, or, like, something like that. So I didn't actually get, like, put on the bleachers a little bit in kindergarten, and I was just, like, constantly hurt, I felt like. But, so I was in kindergarten, and me and my sister, what had just come out was Nickelodeon Slime. So obviously you know that Nickelodeon does the whole, like, the slime you thing where they pour the green stuff all over you in their, like, live shows and stuff like that. So they had thought, like, oh, well, this is such a popular thing, we should, come up with something, like, sell something. So they ended up selling, like, the slime that we know today. Not, like, what they sold wasn't necessarily something that you could, like, pour easily onto somebody, like they do in their live shows. It was, like, the slime that's really popular nowadays. This is back in, like, the early 2000s.
200.
I'm so old! And still in my own little world.
Slime.
Slime. Anyway, so back in the early 2000s, this slime was really popular, and it came in all sorts of colors. Obviously, the green one was really, really popular, but they also had, like, tons of different colors that were, like, opaque, and then they had a bunch of colors that were, like, translucent and had, like, sparkles in it and stuff. Nothing like the slime game today that has, like, friggin' half a goldfish in it and, like, an entire aquarium. Like, people are crazy nowadays. But, so just, basic slime. So we had the one, I believe, it might have been purple, but I think it was red with sparkles. So we had, like, one of the clear ones with sparkles. And we only had one. They were kind of expensive at the time. And my parents, I don't know why I said obviously, but my parents, when we were growing up, didn't have a ton of money. That's why it was always the question of, like, stitches or nah? Like, can we do it? Or
How
can she
good
live?
is our insurance right now?
Yeah. And so they didn't have a ton of money, and they totally built themselves up, and like now they're doing pretty good and stuff like that, and they built a life for themselves, and it was pretty awesome, you know, standard American dream, whatever. But at the time, they didn't have a ton of money, so we had one slime. And me and her were playing with it, and I wanted to like massage it and tear it up by pieces and like play in it, and my sister wanted to cut it up and stuff like that. So I, being pushy, was like, no, I'm going to have my fingers in it. And she's sitting there, and I'm like, I'll try to put my fingers in it and play with it. And she starts chopping away at the slime and then hits my finger. And these were kid safety scissors. Obviously, back in the 2000s, they didn't care about whether, you know, the scissors did a good job, you know.
Because I feel like now you look at kids' safety scissors and they're like made out of plastic, and you try and cut a piece of paper and the paper just bends in between the
Yeah,
scissors.
exactly. No, and these ones, obviously, they cut through my finger. So basically what ended happening is the, like the pad of my finger, so the side that's opposite of the nail, basically from like the first crease of your finger up to the nail got like cut sideways by the scissors. So it was kind of just like hanging off. So it's kind of like holding on to that like little creased line at the that like holding onto that crease line, and then like completely hanging off like the very tip and the pad of your finger where your like fingerprint would be, was like kind of just hanging off from this. And so I start freaking out, and our thing was like, well, I'm bleeding a lot, so like we're just gonna keep it all up in the slime and walk up to my dad. So he's doing
with
like
red slime on top.
with the red. I think it was red, or maybe it was
Or
purple,
purple.
and I'm just remembering that it's red now because it was so bloody. But I remember Megan felt really bad about it, and she starts to help me walk up the stairs with it. And my dad's, I don't remember if he was working or if he was like playing some game on the computer, but I think he might have been playing paintball. And so we walk up, and he has his headphones on, and we kind of scare him because he wasn't expecting us to come up. And he's like, "Hey, what's up, guys?" And he turns around and sees my finger and immediately gets pale again. And so, you know, we're trying to decide what to do because obviously I'm bleeding everywhere and there's all this like slime all up in my shit and all that stuff. So we were like trying to figure out where, like what to do and stuff like that. And I forget how it all worked out, but we had again the talk of stitches or nah. And so my parents decided that since the way that it was injured and stuff like that, and although that it was like kind of flabbing off and stuff, that it would be really hard. Like, the stitching, they thought at the time that, like, getting stitches there, they probably wouldn't do it because it was such a small area to get stitches on and stuff, and they didn't know if, like, it would be very worthwhile to do stitches like that, and that, like, they might even then be like, oh, we need to get a plastic surgeon because it needs to be, like, smaller, more intricate stitches and stuff. So my parents decided that, like, it probably wasn't too big of a deal to go get stitches, and that if we just wrapped it tight enough, it'll fuse back together. So basically, in the end, what we ended up doing was just wrapping it in some gauze, like putting one of those finger condoms over it, and then doing like, you know, the little blue foamy things that have like the metal around them. Like, I think they're like called finger braces.
Like splints.
Yeah, I think it's
For like
a
when you
splint.
like break or sprain your finger.
Yeah, so we put my finger in that because I kept trying to pick at it. So they kind of like sealed my finger off for myself. I was a kindergartner. I was fascinated with what was happening. And it healed just fine. I mean, now, like, the scar's hardly visible, but it's there. And, I should mention also this was my middle finger. So it was kind of funny in kindergarten because, you know, I'd be, like, coloring and my hand would be holding on to the marker. And, you know, all my other fingers were wrapped around the marker except for my middle finger that couldn't bend. So I just, like, was perpetually
Constantly
flipping
coloring
people
and
off.
just like, hey, up yours.
Yeah, I was, like, flipping people off anytime I was holding something or coloring or doing anything.
That's why you write so weird now.
And so I mean, that was it for that one. There's nothing too big with that one. And it healed just fine, so I guess I didn't need stitches. So, good we didn't have to waste that money. Do you want to tell your last one, or you don't think it's good?
I mean, it's okay. So I think we've already established that I wasn't the most, what's the word, athletic of children. Coordinated.
I mean, I wasn't either. Ball came at me, and I was like, ah!
You're one of those people, the ball's flying at you, and you're like swatting at you, you're like, no!
Yeah, you know, now you'll throw stuff at me, and I'm just like dodging it as best as I can, swatting it away.
If you throw anything like smaller than like a roll of tape, expect it to come flying back at you after she smacks it out of the air.
I'm like a cat.
No. Anyway. Like a cat.
Because cats are always like hitting things and smacking shit. Like birds and shit just right out of the air.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna witch to your ass.
This isn't that kind of podcast.
Shut the f up. Tell your stupid story.
So this was, man, what is it with people hurting themselves in kindergarten? This was my kindergarten pain story.
I think it's because you're oblivious in kindergarten, but like suddenly you're expected to like be in public and go around people and like do things.
No, you're still like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, but you'd have to be like way more active. Like you can't just stay at home and watch Nickelodeon all day with your mom. Like you gotta do stuff now. It's like the beginning of your life in kindergarten.
I guess. I yawned again. You're welcome, guys. So we were at a family gathering, and all the kids were running around and being crazy, doing kid things. And I guess to set up the story, any of you that have ever cooked on a charcoal grill obviously realize that it stays hot for a long time. Like any grill really does. Like it's not like a gas grill is any different. Like after, something gets 400 or 500, 600 degrees, like it's however hot those get, I don't know. It takes it a bit to cool back down. So they cooked all of whatever we were cooking, burgers and hot dogs and stuff. And then they'd rolled the charcoal grill off to like the side of the garage because everything was out kind of in the front yard and on like the driveway and like that kind of stuff. So they've rolled the charcoal grill off over to the side of the house, and it's out of the way, supposedly. So the kids are all running around playing tag and stuff, and I think I was like sitting in a chair or something like that, and someone just came up and tagged me, and I was it all of a sudden.
That's how the game works.
I know, but I wasn't running around with them or anything. It's like I was...
Oh, you weren't participating?
Yeah, I was like sitting in a chair.
You made it sound like, and then he tagged me, and like now I'm it? Like, we're supposed to have a contract and a discussion? Like...
So I was it, and I was trying to chase after people to, obviously tag them. And went, around the side of the house where the charcoal grill is, and, uncoordinated little kindergarten Derek tripped. And
which I can just imagine in my head is just like the funniest moment. Because when you trip, I don't know what it is, it's like you go into slow motion. Nothing else around you does, but you move so slow and you try to like catch yourself on like everything around you that you could possibly grab, and you're like, it's just like slow motion, like if I turn 90 degrees and then I grab onto this, I'll save my, and then you fall. And it's just like the funniest thing to watch you fall because you try so hard to stop it. And you just like, and you make it worse because you like are trying to walk into the fall and like you're like freaking halfway down the street still falling, like trying to catch yourself all running all around. So, like,
and in my head it's processing thing. like the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock's where he's like figuring out how he's about to like kick this guy's ass and it's like the slow motion, like he's all thinking about it. That's how it goes in my head, so that's probably why it's hilarious. Everybody
It's
knows.
so freaking hilarious. I remember the first time you fell at our house, like, I could not stop laughing. I didn't even help you up. Like, you fell off our porch, and I thought it was the funniest thing in my life.
Yeah, they had, like, the most awkward steps, where it's, like, big step, little step, this step's shorter than the last step, and, like,
yeah, our
turns
steps
and,
were
like,
stupid.
it's all over the place. And then there was a pot with plants in it on top of it. So, I proceed to start to eat shit and, just about recover when I hit the pot. And go tumbling into the front lawn.
It just takes you so long to fall. And then you almost fell into, like, the area, like, the bricks that are surrounding, like, the tree and stuff. So then you're, like, trying to avoid that area, but then also not smash onto the driveway. Like, it was just the funniest thing.
What's the thing your mom says that? I'm halfway there.
Oh, it's from the Eddie Murphy's Delirious Aunt Bunny, where she's like, I'm halfway down. And she's
Fall
like,
down the stairs or something.
She's all, like, falling all crazy.
So yeah, that's the reference I get a lot.
You're just such an idiot.
So imagine little, fluffy-headed kindergarten Derek. I know you guys haven't seen that, but she's seen pictures of me in kindergarten.
Oh yeah, you look like a porcupine.
I had like my Harry Potter-looking glasses and like some fluffy hair.
Your hair just like grows straight out of your skull.
Yeah, if the hair on the top of my head is probably about 5 inches long right now, and I can make it stand straight up. So 1 inch long definitely is just like, it looks like a chia pet. It's just like straight up in the air. So anyway, I fall over, and I'm sure you've put the rest of the story together, fall onto the charcoal grill. And it was my right elbow And, you know, when you look at my elbow now, if it's bent, you can't really tell if there's anything going on too badly. But if I straighten my elbow out, I've got all these weird bumps and stuff all over it from how it healed and scarred up. So I pretty much just burned the majority of my right elbow. And, you know, of course it was let's go get ice and let's put it on it. I don't know if we ever actually went to the doctor. I don't remember. It was, I was in kindergarten. I don't know. For all I know, we put ointment on and gauzed it up. But then the better part of that is I remember there was like a field trip for kindergarten, like sometime like that week or the next week, recently.
Recently?
Or not shortly after. Yes, I recently made it out of kindergarten.
It's been a long haul.
Second grade was the best 12 years of my life, okay? So, and I remember I was messing with it, and the Band-Aid was up, and it was itchy because we were outside and walking around, and I was like sweating. And
Ew, did you just itch the crap out of it?
No, it was even better. I ran into the side of a brick wall because I wasn't really like looking. It was the whole stand in line, and we're gonna walk places because that's what you do in kindergarten. And I'd been messing with it, and the Band-Aid wasn't on very well, and I like literally ran it into a brick wall and scraped a large majority of the charred, scarred skin off.
Stop.
Yeah, so, and I wonder why the end of my elbow is all bumpy now, so.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Alright, well that's all the stories we have for you guys today. Thank you so much for listening. And if you guys have more categories that you'd like to hear, like just injuries that aren't scar specific, or, first date stories, or, funny high school stories, let us know if you guys have any ideas. And yeah, thank you guys so much for listening, and we hope you have a great day.
Bye.